Hello everyone, welcome to the Python for Beginners course. So our first lesson is an introduction to Python. Python is the most demanded programming language with a high recruitment rate. It's recommended for beginners. It's versatile. It has a large developer community and cross-platform support across various operating systems. So in order to run Python code, you need a Python interpreter, which is a program that executes Python source code. And to write Python code, you need a Python code editor or an integrated development environment. So for our activities, we will install the Visual Studio Code IDE, then we'll install the Python interpreter and write some simple Python code. So first we will install Visual Studio Code. So let's go search for VS Code. Click download. And then select VS Code for your operating system. So once the download is complete, double-click the setup file. Accept the agreement and click Next. Click Install. Once the installation is complete, click Finish. And that will launch VS Code. So next we'll write a simple Python program to test the Python interpreter. So I've created a folder on my computer named My Python Projects, and this is where I will place my Python files. So you can do the same. Now we're going to open that folder in VS Code. So you go to File and then click on Open Folder. So once you have your folder selected, click on Select Folder. And you should see the folder in the Explorer. So next we will create a Python file. So Python files are saved with the .py extension. So let's go to File, New Text File, and click Select a Language. And in here, search for Python, and click Python. So let's go to File, Save, and then you can name this what you like. So I'll call mine Scratch. So this will be saved with the extension scratch.py. So let's go in this window and then let's type some code. So type print, parentheses, and in the parentheses type your single quotes, and then type hello world. Let's go here and click this run button, and you should see hello world displayed in the terminal. So our next topic is basic output. So the Python print function is used to display output to the console. And for our coding activities, we will print multiple output, combine strings, use the AND keyword argument, use the item separator keyword argument, and escape characters. In this coding activity, we will print multiple lines using the print function. So let's go in here and type our print function. And in there, let's type a string. Let's select the print function and copy it. Paste. And paste again. And you can change the text. Let's run our program. And you should see the separate lines of output. So next we will combine strings using the plus operator or comma. So let's go here and type our print function and combine two strings with the plus operator. So we'll say hello, put a space there and a plus, and combine that with another string. I'll go with John. So let's run the program, and you see the two strings combined. So let's go combine with a comma. So get rid of the plus and replace it with a comma. And then get rid of that space in the hello string. So the difference between the plus and the comma is that a comma will automatically put a white space between strings that are separated. So let's run, and you should see that we get the same output. So next we will use the end keyword argument. So this suppresses the line break or new line character from a print function. So let me illustrate. So let's print out a string. And then you can select that, copy it, and paste again. And you can change the text. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that by default, those strings are placed on separate lines. So the end keyword argument can be used to suppress that. So let's go in this first print function and type a comma and type end equals quotes. So what this means is replace the new line character or the line break with nothing. So let's go here and do the same thing. So end equals quotes. Now let's run this again. And you see right here that I have the characters now all in one line. So you can go here in the quotes and type a space, and that will replace the new line characters with a space. So let's go ahead and run this again. And you see that the characters are now separated with a space. So next we'll use the item separator. And this replaces the white space of a comma separated string with whatever you want. So let's go here and print out some comma separated strings. So I'll go with A, comma B, and comma C. So when I run this, you see that by default, the strings are separated by white space. So let's go back in here, type a comma, and then type SEP. So that is the item separator keyword argument. So type equals, type your quotes. So right now, that means nothing. Just go ahead and run this. And you see that the white space is no longer there. You can go in here and actually put a character. So I'll put a hashtag there. And let's go ahead and run that. And you see that each of the characters are now separated by this hashtag. So next I'll show you how to use the escape characters. Now these alter your output. So let's start with the new line escape character. So that causes line breaks between strings. So let's go here. And then we'll say hello \n, that's your new line character, and then we'll say world. So let's go ahead and run this, and you see that the new line character causes a line break between hello and world. The next one is the tab escape character. So let's replace the N with a T, and that will tab the string that follows. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that we have some tabbing here. And you can put as many of these tab escape characters as you want. So if I go here and put another one and run this again, you see I have 2 tabs. Next we have this escape character, which allows you to escape a quote. So you can put a \, there and a single quote. I'll come here, put a \, there and another single quote. So this will ignore the quotes in your string. So I go ahead and run this. You see that I've got these single quotes there. And we can come here and replace that with double quotes. Go ahead and run that. And I have world in double quotes. And you can come here and escape backslashes. So let's replace the quote with a backslash there. Another one there. Let's run it. And you see that we now have the backslashes ignored. So our next topic is data types and literals. So a data type describes the value used in a program, and a literal is the actual value used in the program. Python data types are integer, float, string, and Boolean. Integer types are whole numbers. Float types are decimal numbers. Strings are a group of keyboard characters, and Booleans are either true or false. So for our coding activities, we will print numbers, print Booleans, and print strings. So in this coding activity, we will print an integer and a floating point number. So let's go in here and type our print function. And we can put an integer there. Let's go ahead and run this. And you see the number printed out. And let's change this to a decimal number. Let's run it. And you see the floating point number printed out. Next, we will print Boolean values. Now, these are used for conditional statements. So let's go here, type our print function, and in there type true. Let's run this, and we'll see the Boolean value of true. Let's replace that with false. Let's run this, and you'll see the Boolean value of false. And now we will print strings. So let's go here, type our print function. So a string can be encased in single quotes or double quotes. So we can type a string like this in single quotes. We run that and we get our string output. Or we can type the string in double quotes. And we run that again and we get the same output. Our next topic is arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are used to write arithmetic expressions. And the Python arithmetic operators are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, integer division, remainder, and exponent. Operator precedence determines which operator gets used first in an arithmetic operation. And operator associativity specifies that operators with the same precedence are used from left to right. So for our coding activities, we will use the arithmetic operators and then apply operator precedence and operator associativity. So in this coding activity, I'll show you the Python arithmetic operators. So first is plus for addition. So let's go here in our print function and add two numbers. So I'll say 5 plus 2. Let's go ahead and run that. And you see that gives us 7. Next is subtraction. Let's replace the plus with that. And you see that gives us a 3. Next is multiplication, which is an asterisk. You run that and you get a 10. Next is division. So that will be a /. Let's run. You see you get the result of the division. And next is integer division. So that will be 2 /. So an integer division will give you an integer as a result. So let's go ahead and run this. So you see that instead of remainder, you get a whole number. Next is the remainder operator. So that will give you the remainder of a division. So let's type the %, and then let's run. And you see that 5 divided by 2 is going to give you a remainder of 1. And the last is the exponent. So that's 2 asterisks. So that will raise a number to a power. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that gives you 25. So next I'll show you operator precedence. So let's go in here and write a math expression to add two numbers and then multiply. So let's type 5 plus 2 multiplied by 10. So multiplication has more precedence over addition. So 2 times 10 is going to take place first, and then the result of that is going to be added to 5. So let's go ahead and run this, and you see we get 25. Now let's go and place 5 plus 2 in parentheses. So anything that's in parentheses will be evaluated first. So we'll have 5 plus 2, that'll give us a 7, and that'll be multiplied by 10. So let's go ahead and run this, and you see we get 70. Now I'll show you operator associativity. So what this means is any operators with the same precedence will be evaluated from left to right. So let's go here and multiply two numbers. So I'll go with 5 times 2 and then divide by 2. So multiplication and division have the same precedence. So in this case, multiplication came first. So it's going to be evaluated first before the division. So let's go ahead and run this. And you'll see we get 5. And let's go here and replace the multiplication with a plus. And then the division with a minus. So plus and minus have the same precedence. So in this case, addition is going to take place first before subtraction. So let's run this. And you see we get 5. Our next topic is variables, f-string, and the augmented assignment operator. So a variable is a labeled container that stores data. Variables hold data used in a program, and variable data can be replaced by new data. So some variable naming rules are letters and underscores are allowed for variable names. A number in a variable name is allowed provided it is not the first to appear in the variable name. No spaces are allowed for variable names, and no reserved Python keywords are allowed for variable names. F-strings are formatted string literals, and they serve as placeholders for variables. And an augmented assignment operator can be used to simultaneously write an expression and assign the result of that expression to a variable. So for our coding activities, we will declare variables, specify multiple assignments, use f-strings, format numbers, and use the augmented assignment operators. In this coding activity, we will declare a variable and assign a value to that variable and then print the contents of that variable. So let's go here and create a variable named greeting. And let's assign it a string. So I'll go with hello. Now let's go here and print greeting. Let's go ahead and run this. And you see that the contents of greeting, i.e. hello, is output. Next, I'll show you how to declare and initialize multiple variables. So let's go here and create a variable named A, type a comma, and let's make this one B, type a comma, and we'll make that one C. So let's go here and type equals, and then type a 1, comma 2, comma 3. So what this means is for variable A, 1 will be assigned to it, 2 will be assigned to variable B, and 3 to variable C. So let's go here and print out variables A, B, and C. Let's run this, and you see 1, 2, and 3 are output. So next I'll show you how to print an f-string. So let's go here and type our print function. And then in there type F, and then quotes, and some text. Let's go ahead and run, and you should see the output. So next we'll write an f-string with a variable placeholder. So let's go here and create a variable, call that name, and let's assign it a string. So I'll assign it John. Let's go to the next line and type our print function, and in there type F, quotes, and then type hello and a comma. Let's type space, and still in the quotes, let's type our curly braces. So in between the curly braces is where you put the variable. So you can select the name variable, copy it, come here, and paste. So the contents of name will be placed here. So let's run this, and you should see hello John. So next we'll write an F string with multiple variable placeholders. So let's go here and create a variable called name and assign it a name. Let's go to the next line and create another variable named age and assign it a number. Let's go type our print function. Let's type our F string and the quotes. And in there, let's create a placeholder for the name variable. So type your curly braces, select the name variable, copy it, go in here and paste. And now let's go here and type is. Let's type another set of placeholders. So let's go there and put the braces there. Select age, copy that, and put that there. And then you can round that up with today. Now let's go ahead and run this. And you should see John is 25 today. So next we'll write an F string with a placeholder for an arithmetic expression. So let's go here and type our print function. And then type our F strings. And then we'll say the sum is colon. And let's type our placeholders. And in the placeholders, let's just write an arithmetic expression. So I'll go with 2 plus 2. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see I get a 4. So we can combine this with a variable. So let's go here at the top. And let's create a variable a. And let's go ahead and assign that value 5. And you can come here and replace the 2 with the a. I'll go ahead and run this, and you'll see that I get a different result. So next we will combine F strings. So let's go here and create some variables. So I'll go with name, give that a string, create another variable named age, give that a number, and then let's do another variable name job, and give that an occupation. So let's go ahead and combine F strings. So type your print function, and then let's type our first F string, and you can put a placeholder there. Let's get the name variable, copy and paste, and then just put another set of F strings there. Put your placeholder. Put the age variable there. Let's do one more. And we'll put the job variable there. And these three will be combined. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that everything is combined. And then you can come in here and then start formatting. So you can put a comma there and a space. Put a comma there and a space, and then let's go ahead and run this, and you'll see that it's formatted better. So next I'll show you how to use the format specifier with precision. So what this does is format a floating point number to a specific amount of decimal places. So let's go here and create a variable with a math expression assigned. So let's do 250 divided by 3.5. And then let's print out the results using an F string. So we'll go for that and our placeholder You can copy the result variable and place that there. So let's go ahead and run this, and you see the result is this floating point number with a lot of decimal places. So we'll format this using precision. So let's go here after result and type a colon and then a precision designator. So we type a dot and then the number of decimal places that we want. So I'll go with 2. And then right after that, you type a type designator. So this specifies the data type that you're dealing with. In this case, it's a floating point number. So we type F. So let's go here and run this. And you see that our number is now rounded to 2 decimal places. If we came here and changed that to 4 and ran this again, you see that we have 4 decimal places. So next we'll use a format specifier with comma separators. So I'll show you how that works. So let's go here and create a variable named pay, and let's assign that a value of 20,000. Let's go print that out as an F string. And when we run that, of course, we see the same result. So the comma separator will put pretty much 1,000 comma separator where it applies. So let's come here. And then right after pay, type a colon, type a comma, and then type .2. So the comma right here is our comma separator. And of course, this is our precision. And then right after the 2, let's type F. So let's go ahead and run this. And you should now see that we have the 1,000 comma separator right there. So you can come here and put a $sign right before the opening brace and run that. You see that that reads as currency now. So next we'll use the format specifier with percentage formatting. So let's go here and create a variable named rate and assign that a value of 0.2. And then let's go ahead and print that out as an F string. And when we run that, we should see the 0.2. So the idea is we want to convert this into a percentage. So let's come here right after rate and type a colon and then a percentage. And then we'll go ahead and run this. You see that by default we get about 6 decimal places. So we can change that by putting a precision designator. So let's go here and type a dot and a 0. And let's go ahead and run this. You should see that we get just 20%. And of course, we can specify whatever amount of precision that we want. And let's go here and change this to 0.245. And then let's change this to a precision of 2. Let's go ahead and run this. And you see we get this result. Now we will use the augmented assignment operator. So this will allow you to write an arithmetic expression and then assign the results of that expression to a variable simultaneously. So let's go here and create 2 variables, A and B, and then let's assign them 2 numbers. So I'll go for 5 and 5. So let's come here and let's write A equals A plus B. So this right here is going to take the value of A and add that to B, and whatever the result is will be assigned to A. So go here and print that. And let's go ahead and run this. And we get a 10. So I'm going to show you how to rewrite this using an augmented assignment operator. So instead of saying A equals A plus B, we could say A plus equals b. So that is exactly the same thing. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see we get a 10. So we have other augmented assignment operators. We have one for multiplication. So that's the same as saying a equals a times b. So let's go ahead and run that. We get a 25. We have one for subtraction. Run that. We get a 0. And we have another for division. Let's go ahead and run that. And we get a 1.0. Our next topic is comments. So a comment can be used to explain your code or deactivate your code. Comment types in Python are single line comments and multi-line comments. For our coding activities, we will write single line comments and write multi-line comments. So in this coding activity, I'll show you how to write a single line comment. So single line comments are great for putting headings for your code or labeling your code or deactivating a single line of code. So let's go here and just print out a string. So you come here and then you write your single line comment by placing a hashtag, and then you can put whatever you want there to describe the code that follows. So I can just say displays a message. So when you run this, the Python interpreter will ignore this comment. So you see that the code runs without any issues. So you could take that comment and then put it right next to your code or your statement and describe it that way. Or you can come here and put a hashtag right next to that statement, and that will deactivate that statement. So when you run this, nothing happens. So that is a single line comment. So next I'll show you the multi-line comment. So this is great for commenting multiple lines of code or explaining your code in a paragraph. So let's go here and write some print functions. You can select that line, copy, and paste. So imagine you had 100 lines. Now using a single line comment will be time consuming to comment those lines. So you want to use a multi-line comment. And to do that, we type 3 single quotes. So let's go here at the top and then just reduce that to 3 single quotes. And let's go here at the end and do the same. So anything in between those triple quotes will be commented, and that is your multi-line comment. Our next topic is user input. So the input function is used to collect keyboard input. All inputs are treated as strings, but they can be converted into numbers using the int function or the float function. For our coding activities, we will collect input and convert string input into numbers. In this coding activity, we will use the input function to collect keyboard input. So let's go here and create a variable. And then let's assign it the input function. So in the parentheses, let's type a prompt. So this is just text that shows up telling the user what to do. So let's have it read, enter your name. Now let's go to the next line and print the name variable. So we'll use an F string, and let's have it read hello, comma, let's put our placeholder and then name. So let's go ahead and run this, and then you'll see the prompt, and then next to that let's enter some data. So hit the enter key, and then you should see hello John. So when the enter key was hit, this value was assigned to the name variable and of course printed out. So next we'll use input functions to collect strings and convert them into numbers so they can be used for math. So recall that the input function collects strings. Even if you enter a number, it'll still be treated as a string. So in order to use that for math, you would need to convert it into an actual number. So let's go in here and create a variable, and then let's assign it an input function. And let's have the prompt read, enter a whole number. Let's select that line, copy it. Let's go to the next line and paste. And then let's change this variable to B. And let's have the prompt read, enter a decimal number. Let's go to the next line and create a variable, name product. And then let's assign it A times B. Let's go to the next line and print the product variable. So I'll use an F string. Let's have it read, the product is. Put your placeholders and then product. So let's go run this. And let's enter a first number. Hit enter. And then enter a second number. And hit enter. So you see that we end up with a type error. So that's because 30 and 20 are actually strings. So you can't multiply strings. So to fix this error, we'll have to convert variable A and B into numbers using the int function or the float function. So let's go to A and let's use the int function. So type int, parentheses, and then close up A with a closing parentheses. Now let's go to B and do the same, but with a float function. So type float, opening parentheses, and close up B with the closing parentheses. So let's go run this again. And let's enter our two numbers. So I'll go for 30 and 20 and hit enter. And you see that the multiplication takes place. Our next topic is conditional statements. A conditional statement executes code based on a condition, which could be true or false. Conditions are decision structures, and the code within a condition must be indented. The Python conditional statements are the if statement, which executes code if a condition is true, the if-else statement, which will execute code if a condition is true, or a different block of code if that condition were false, and the if-elif-else statement, which checks if one out of multiple conditions is true before executing code. In order to write conditions, you will need relational operators, and the Python relational operators are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. You can combine conditional statements using logical operators, and they are and, or, and not. The and operator will check if two or more conditions are true. The or operator will check if one out of multiple conditions is true, and the not operator reverses the outcome of a condition. For our coding activities, we'll write an if statement, we'll write an if-else statement, we'll write an if-else statement, we'll use the logical and, or, and not operators. In this coding activity, we will write an if statement. So let's go here and create two variables. So we'll say A equals 5, and then let's create another variable. We'll have it say B equals 5. So we'll write an if statement to check if A is equal to B. So we'll say if A equals B. Type your colon. So here is our relational operator, the equal to operator, and make sure you type this colon here. So right after the colon, hit the enter key. So you notice that you have some indentation or tabbing here. So this is important in order for this if statement to work. So if A is equal to B, whatever we type here will be executed. So let's just go ahead and print out some text. So we can just say this is true. So let's go and run this. And of course, we get the message because A is equal to B. So let's use a different relational operator. So let's change this to greater than or equal to B. So A is greater than or equal to B, as in 5 is equal to B. So let's go ahead and run this. And we should see we get the same output. This is true. Now let's change this to another relational operator. So let's make this a less than or equal to. So A is less than or equal to B. 5 is equal to B. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that we get the same message. So next we'll write an if-else statement. So here I have two variables. A is assigned 6 and B is assigned 5. So let's go here and write an if statement to check if A is less than B. So we'll say if A less than B, type your colon, and then hit enter, and then let's print out an F string. So we'll have our F string read A is less than B. So let's put our placeholder, and then A, and then we'll just say is less than, and then put another placeholder, and then B. So let's go to the next line and hit the backspace key, and let's type our else statement. So type else and then a colon. And then you can copy this statement here and go right where else is and then paste. And let's change this to A is not less than B. So if this condition is true, then this will be output. But if this condition is false, then the statement in our else block will be output. So you see that 6 is greater than 5, so we should expect to see this message. So let's go here and run, and you should see we get 6 is not less than 5. So next we'll write an if-elif-else statement. So let's go here and create a variable named weather, and then let's assign it a value of snowy. Let's go to the next line and write an if statement to check if the weather is sunny. So say if weather is equal to sunny. Let's type our colon, and if this is true, let's print out the weather is sunny. Let's go to the next line and write an elif statement. So type el and then if. And then let's select this part, copy it, and then paste. And let's have this check if the weather is snowy. Select the print function and come here and hit enter and then paste. And just change this to snowy. Let's select the elif statement and copy it. Hit enter and hit the backspace key and then paste. And let's change this to rainy. And do that here too. So if none of these are true, we can write an else statement to print something else. So let's say else, and then we can print look outside. So let's run this. And weather is snowy, so we get this output. So let's go here and change this to sunny. And let's go ahead and run this. And you see that we get that output. And let's go ahead and change this to something different. So I put an X next to sunny. So none of these conditions match that. So we should get our else statement output. So let's go here and run. And you should see it says, look outside. So that's your if-elif-else statement. So next we'll use the logical AND operator. So recall that the AND operator checks if multiple conditions are true. So here I have variables A, B, and C, each assigned numbers. So we're going to write an if statement to check if B is greater than A and if B is less than C. So pretty much we're checking if 10 is between 5 and 15. So let's go here and write our if statement. So say if B is greater than A, and then let's type our logical AND. So just type AND. And then the second condition will be B less than C. And then let's type or colon. So let's go to the next line and then type an F string. So let's do our print and then F quotes. And then we can just say B is between and then A and C. So let's run this. And you should see we get the output 10 is between 5 and 15. So next we'll use the logical OR operator. So the OR operator checks if only one out of multiple conditions is true. So let's come here and change the B variable value to 1. And then let's replace this AND with an OR. So now 1 is not greater than 5. However, 1 is less than 15. So let's have this read a different message. So we can just say one of these is true. So let's go ahead and run this. Sure enough, you see that we get our output because 1 is less than 15. Now we will use the logical NOT operator. So this reverses the outcome of a condition. So let's come here and select this bit and delete it. So we're left with just one condition checking if B is greater than A. So we know that 1 is not greater than 5. So if we were to run this, nothing happens. So let's go here and right before the condition, let's type a NOT. So here we know that this is going to be false. So what's going to happen is when the NOT operator is placed next to a false outcome, that's going to flip it to true. So here we can just have this read something else. So we can just say this is true. Now let's go ahead and run this. And you should see that we get our output. Our next topic is loops. So loops execute code repeatedly. Python loops are the for loop and the while loop. The for loop executes code a specific number of times, and the while loop can execute code indefinitely until you terminate it. Code within the loop must be indented. You can interrupt a loop using the break and continue statements. The break statement will terminate a loop immediately and resume normal program flow, and the continue statement resumes iterating the loop immediately. For our coding activities, we will write for loops, we'll write a while loop, we'll use the break statement and the continue statement. In this coding activity, we will write a for loop. So for loops repeat or iterate a specific number of times. So let's go here and type the keyword for and then space, and then let's create a variable. We'll call this number. So this is a target variable. So every time the loop repeats, this target variable can be used. So let's go after that and type the in operator and then space and then square brackets. So let's go in the square brackets and put in some numbers. So I'll go for 0 to 5. 0 and then 1, 2, comma, 3, comma 4, and then 5. And then type your colon. So what I have highlighted here is a sequence of numbers or a list. And the number of items that are in this list is going to determine how many times the loop repeats. So each time the loop iterates or repeats, each of these numbers are assigned to this target variable. So let's go after this colon and hit enter. And you see that you have indentation just like the if statement. Now, whatever you type in here will be executed, provided you have items in this list to go through. So let's just print out the value number. So let's run. And you should see the numbers output. So the first time the loop iterates, 0 is assigned to the number target variable and then print it out. And we advance to the next number, 1. That's assigned to the number target variable and then print it out. So this keeps going until we get to the last number, 5. So once that's printed out, we come back and realize that there are no more items to advance through, and that's where the loop terminates. So we can do other things with this number target variable, such as math. So let's come here, right next to number, and then let's multiply it by 2. So let's go ahead and run. So you see that each time we iterate the loop, the value of number is multiplied by 2. So here we get 0 times 2, which is a 0, 2 times 1, which is a 2, 2 times 2, which is a 4, 2 times 3, which gives you 6, and so on. And when we get to the last number, that will be 2 times 5, and that gives you a 10. So you can do different things inside of the body of the loop. Now imagine if you were asked to write a loop to iterate 100 times. It will be time consuming to go in here and write 100 numbers. So thankfully we have something called the range function. And what that will do is generate a sequence of numbers for you. So let's highlight this list and then delete it. And then let's type the range function. And then you can put a number in here. So I'll go for 100. And then let's get rid of this multiplication and just print out the number. So this range function will generate a sequence of numbers starting from 0 but excluding 100. So we'll get a sequence of numbers from 0 to 99. So let's come here and run this. And you see that I have 0 to 99 output. You can also change the starting position of your range function's number sequence. So let's come here. Well, let's say we wanted to start at 50. We just type a start value of 50 and then a comma. Now, let's go ahead and run this. And you see that we start from 50 to 99. You can change the step value of the range function. So let's come here after 100, type a comma, and then we'll say 2. So now we're going to go ahead and run this. You see that we have a sequence of numbers that are incremented by 2. So we got 50, 52, and so on. You can change the range function so that it generates a sequence of numbers in reverse. So let's come here, and then we'll start at 10. And then we'll end at -1. So that'll exclude -1. So this will actually be 0. And then we can make the step negative. So let's change that to -1. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that I have a sequence of numbers output from 10 to 0. So we can write a for loop to iterate a list of strings. So let's come here and let's change this target variable to name. And then let's select this range function and replace that with a list of strings. So I can type a name here. Let's go type another one. And one more. And then let's come here and use an F string. So let's get rid of number and type our F string, and we can just have it say hello. put your placeholder and then put name in there. Put a period there. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that for every iteration, the list item or the string will be assigned to name and then output. So next we'll write a while loop. So a while loop can be written to repeat an unknown number of times based on a condition. So let's come here and create a variable, and let's assign that the input function. And let's prompt that to read, "Are we there yet?" So let's come down here and write our while loop. So we start with the keyword while, space, and then after that you write your condition. So we're going to run this loop provided result is not equal to yes. So we'll say result, and then the not equal operator, and then yes. Type your colon, and then let's go select the prompt, copy it, and then let's come here and then paste. Now let's hit enter and the backspace key, and this is outside of the loop, so let's go ahead and print out a message to indicate that the loop has ended. So we'll go for hooray. Now let's go run this. So this is going to be our first prompt. So we can go ahead and type a no and hit enter. So no is not equal to yes, so that is true. So because of that, we're going to jump inside of the loop, and then we'll be prompted to enter more input. So I'll go type no again and hit enter. So that brings us back to this condition. Same thing. So as soon as I keep typing no, I'm going to keep pretty much going around in circles with this loop. And then until I type a yes, and then I hit enter. Then we get to the condition saying, is yes not equal to yes? Well, that is false. So because this is false, the loop terminates, and then we resume our normal program flow. And that's how we get our message. So while loops are great for situations where you don't know how many times a situation is going to repeat in your program. Next, we'll use the break statement. So the break statement terminates a loop. So let's come here and create a loop. And then let's have it generate 50 numbers. Let's print out number. And then run it to confirm that you've got 0 to 49 output. So let's go after the print function, and then we'll write a condition. So type if number is greater than or equal to 25, type a colon, hit enter, and then type the break statement. So once number hits 25, we will break out of this loop. So let's come here and run this. And you see that we get 0 to 25. So once we got to 25, we broke out of the loop. Next, we'll use the continue statement. So the continue statement resumes iteration of a loop. So let's come here and create a for loop. And then for a range function, let's have it start at 1 and then end at 51. Type a colon, and then come in here and type your print function, and let's print number. Let's run the program and confirm you have a sequence of numbers from 1 to 50. Now we will use the continue statement to filter out even numbers and print out only the odd ones. So let's come here before the print function, and then let's write a condition. So we'll say if number, and then let's type a remainder operator, and then 2. And then we'll say equal to 0, and then type a colon. And then hit enter, and then type the continue statement. So first time around, our number will be 1. So 1 divided by 2 is going to yield a remainder, and it's not going to be 0. So the continue statement will be ignored, and then 1 will be printed out. Second time around, number is going to be 2. 2 divided by 2 is going to give a remainder of 0. So because this condition is true, the continue statement will run, and then this print function will be ignored. So once we hit continue, we're going to resume the iteration of the loop, and 2 will not be printed out. When we get to 3, 3 divided by 2 yields a remainder, so this condition will be false. The continue statement will be ignored, and then 3 will be printed out. So let's go ahead and run this. And then you'll see that we now have the odd numbers printed out, and the even numbers have been filtered out. Next, I'll show you an infinite loop. So this is a loop that loops indefinitely, and you'll want to avoid these types of loops because they could crash your program. And this stresses the importance of knowing when to terminate your loops. So let's come here and create a variable and assign that a value of true. So that's a Boolean value. Now let's go to the next line and create a while loop. So type while, and then next to that, type flag. Type a colon, and then let's go print out a message. So I have this say loop forever. Now flag is always going to be true, so because of that, this message is going to keep printing out. So that is an infinite loop. So when I go ahead and run this, you should see that I get this message printed out indefinitely. So to terminate the program, click on this trash can icon, and that will stop things. Our next topic is functions. A function is a labeled block of code that can be executed once or many times. Functions can accept arguments. Functions can return values. Functions support keyword arguments, and the code within a function must be indented. Some benefits for using functions are it makes your code reusable, lets you organize your code better, and it makes your code easy to read. The same rules for naming variables applies when naming functions, and functions must be defined before they are called. Function types in Python are void and value returning functions. Void functions execute code only, and value returning functions can execute code and return one or more values. For our coding activities, we will define and call a void function. We'll pass arguments to a function. We'll use keyword arguments and return values from a function. In this coding activity, we will define and call a void function. So let's come here. To define a function, you type the keyword def space, and then let's give our function a name. So we'll call this display underscore messages. Type your parentheses, and then type a colon. Now let's hit enter, and that takes us into the body of the function. And here is where we specify what will happen when the function is called. So I'll just have this function print out some names. So let's type our print function, and then I'll go for hello, Mary. You can select this line, copy it, go to the next line and paste, change the name. Let's paste again and change the name. So this is the function. So once the function has been defined, you have to call it. So to call the function, you specify the function name and its parentheses. So you can select it there, copy it, and then hit enter a few times, and then hit the backspace key. So that'll make sure that you're outside of this function, and then go ahead and paste. So you need to make sure you define your functions before you call them. So let's go here and hit the run button. You see that the function is called and it executes the statements within it. Next, we'll pass an argument to a function. So this gives you some flexibility when working with functions because you can pass data to your functions and that data gets used within the function. So let's come here and create a parameter variable. Let's call that name. And then let's delete these print statements. And then let's convert this into an F string. So put an F there. And then let's replace Mary with a placeholder. And then in the braces, type name. And then here where we call our function, let's pass in a string. So I'll pass in Mary in there. Now let's go ahead and run this. So when the function is called, Mary is passed into the function as an argument. Mary gets assigned to the name parameter, and the name parameter gets used here in the F string. And that's how we get hello Mary. So we have some flexibility with this function because we can now pass any string that we want into it. So let's copy this and then paste. Let's pass a different name this time. Let's hit enter and paste again and pass another name. Now let's go ahead and run this. And you can see that we have called the function more times while passing arguments to it. And those arguments have been used inside of the function through their parameters. Next, we'll pass multiple arguments to a function. So multiple arguments and parameters are comma separated. So let's come here and define a function that will take two numbers. So let's type def, and let's call this calculate sum. Type your parentheses. And let's create two parameters, A, and then a comma, and then B. So let's come here and type our colon, hit enter. And then in here, let's create a variable, and then assign it the sum of A. So A plus B. And then let's go print out the result. So we'll just say print. Let's do an F string. And here we can have it read A plus B is the sum. So let's do a placeholder for A. And then we'll say plus, and then a placeholder for B. And then we'll say is, and then a placeholder for sum. So let's go outside of the function, hit the backspace key, and then let's call the calculate sum function. So you can select the function, copy it, come here and then paste, and then let's pass some numbers in there. So I'll start with a 2 and then a 5. So let's go run this, and you'll see that we get the output 2 plus 5 is 7. So next I'll show you keyword arguments. So this lets you select the parameter variables in your function while passing arguments to them. So let's come here and define a function. So I'll have this named display customer info. And let's have this have 3 parameters. So we'll go for name, age, and salary. And in the body of the function, we'll just display that info. So let's write our print function. And let's use an F string to put this together. So we'll say name for the placeholder is age. And we can say with a salary of, and then let's do a placeholder for salary. Now let's go call the display customer info function. So let's select the function, let's copy it, and then let's paste it here outside of the function. So let's keep these parameters here. Now, you might run into a situation where you forgot the order in which your parameters are set up. So for example, I'll come here, and let's say you put in a number here, and you meant that to be the age. And then you come here and put in a string here, and you meant for that to be the name, and so on. So you pretty much could pass arguments into your function and they get assigned to the wrong parameters. So this is where keyword arguments come into play. So now that these arguments have been passed in a different order, we can select the parameters that they get assigned to. So here where I have a 20, we can come here and type age equals 20. So this is a keyword argument right here because the parameter variable has been selected. So let's come here and then we'll say name equals Mary. And then we have one more for the salary. So we can just say salary equals, and then just put a number there. Okay, so let's go and run this. And you see that the information gets into the function without any problems. So next we will return a value from a function. So let's go here and define a function. And let's name it calculate product. Let's create two parameter variables. So I have that named A and B. Let's go in the body of the function and then create a variable named product. And then let's assign it A multiplied by B. And then after that, type return. And then next to that, type product. So once the multiplication takes place, the result gets assigned to product, and the return keyword returns product. And that data or value in product can be used outside of this function. So let's select the function name and copy it. Hit enter in the backspace key. And now let's paste it here. So let's go past two numbers here. So I'll go for 5 and 10. Now, we've called the function here, and what's going to happen is 5 times 10 is going to take place, and then 50 is going to be returned. But the function gets its call here, and then it gets its return value here as well. But there's nothing being done with that return value. So we need to assign that to a variable so that we can at least display the results. So before we have the function call, let's create a variable named result. And now let's go ahead and type equals. So our return value is going to be right here, and then it'll be assigned to result. And then we can come here and print it. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that we have the value returned. So next we will return multiple values from a function. So Python is one of the few programming languages that lets you do this. So let's come here and define a function. And let's call it get full name. Type your parentheses and your colon, and let's do two parameters. So I'll call this one first, and this will be last. Let's go in the body of the function and then just type return, and then first, comma, last. So this function returns two values. So let's go call the function. So select the function, copy it. Let's go outside the function and call it. And then let's assign the results to a variable. So we'll say full underscore name. And then let's go replace this with some names. So I'll go for John for the first name, and then Doe for the last name. Now let's go print out the full name. So we're going to go ahead and run this. You should see we get John and then Doe. Our next topic is variable scope. Variable scope determines where a variable can be used in a program, and variable scope types are global and local. Global scope variables can be accessed and used anywhere in the program, and local scope variables can only be used in the function they were declared in. For our coding activities, we will declare local variables and global variables. In this coding activity, we will create a local variable. So let's define a function. Now let's name it display message. And then in the parentheses, let's create a parameter. Now, this parameter variable is going to serve as a local variable, meaning that it can only be used within the function. So let's come here, and then let's print out an F string. So we'll have it read hello, and then let's put a placeholder for our name parameter. Now let's go call the function. So let's copy that, paste, and then let's pass a name in there. So we go ahead and run this. We should see the message. Now, name can only be used inside of the display message function. So if you attempt to use it outside of it, then you'll see what happens. So I'll go for hello. And then name. So we go ahead and run this. You see that we get a name error. So a local variable can only be used inside of the function it was declared in. So next we will create global variables. So global variables can be used anywhere in your program. So let's come here and create two variables. So we'll call this one name, type a comma, and then age, and then let's go assign them the values. Tracy, type a comma, and then 25. Now let's go define a function. So we'll name this function change name. And then type your colon, and then hit enter. So inside of this function, we want to refer to these variables as global variables. So in the function, we type the keyword global. And then after that, we put the variables that are referred to as global variables. So you can just select these variables here, copy, and come here next to global and then paste. So we're letting this function know that these variables are global variables. So let's come here and then assign a value to those global variables. So we'll say name equals, and let's change that to Jake. Let's come here and then type age equals, and assign that a different number. Now let's call our change name function. And then after that has been changed, let's print out the result of name and age. So let's write a print function and print out an F string. So we'll do one for name placeholder, and we'll say is, and then an age placeholder. So let's run this, and you see that name and age have been changed to Jake and 33. Our next topic is lists. A list is a container that stores multiple values. A list is a data structure. Lists are immutable, meaning that they can grow or shrink. You can access the items in a list using an index, which is a unique number. Lists can be sliced, they can be iterated, and they can be processed using list methods. Some list methods are the append method, count, index, insert, sort, remove, and reverse. For our coding activities, we will create a list, iterate a list, access list items by indexing, count list items, mutate a list, slice a list, use the in operator to search a list, work with list methods, use the del statement, and copy lists. In this coding activity, we will create lists. So let's go here and create a variable named myList. And then we'll say it's equal to, and then square brackets. So that right there is a list. So let's make this a list of integers. So we can go 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 5, and so on. And let's print out the list. Let's run, and you will see the list of integers. Now we can replace this number list with strings. So let's go here and replace it with some strings. So here I got a second string and a third. Let's go ahead and print, and you see our list of strings. We can have a list of mixed types. So let's go here and put a Boolean and a number. And then when we run this, we should see a list of mixed data types. So next we will use the range function to generate a sequence of numbers for our list. So let's go here and delete the list. And then let's type the list function. And then inside of the parentheses, type range, parentheses. So inside of the parentheses of range, go ahead and type a 10. So what this means is generate a sequence of numbers from 0 up to, but not including 10. So that will be 0 to 9. So let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see a list of numbers from 0 to 9. We can alter the range function's start and step values. So let's go here, and before 10, let's type a 2 and a comma. So what this means is start the sequence at 2. And then when we go ahead and run this, you see that we have a sequence starting from 2 to 9. And we can change the step value. So by default, the step value is 1. So let's go here after 10 and change that step value to 2. When we go ahead and run this, you see that we have a step value of 2, showing our numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8. So next we will iterate a list with a for loop. Let's delete this print function and delete this here. And let's manually create a list of numbers. So let's go here and then just fill this up with some numbers. Let's go here and create our for loop. So type for, and then let's specify a target variable. So I'll call this number. Type space and then type in, and then specify the list. So copy that variable and paste that there. Type your colon and hit enter. Make sure you have indentation. And then for every item in the list, we will print it. So let's go ahead and type print parentheses. So for every iteration, each number is being assigned to this number variable. So let's go here and type number. Now let's run this, and you'll see our numbers. So next we will access the items in a list, and this is called indexing. So the items inside of a list are placed in elements with index numbers starting from 0. So for example, this number is at element 0, this is at element 1, and so on. So let's delete that. And to, for example, access the first item in the list, we can do this. So let's type our print function, and then let's get the variable for the list and paste it there. and type square brackets. So inside of the square brackets, you put the index number. So I said the first item is at element 0. So let's go here and put a 0. And let's go ahead and run that. And you'll see that it gives us 10. So let's say we want to get 50. So 50 is at element 4. So let's go here and change that to 4. And we run that. You see we get 50. We can also use negative numbers. So if you want to get the last item in a list, you type -1 for the index. When you go ahead and run that, you see that we still get 50. Now you want to make sure you put numbers that are within your index range. Otherwise you get an error. So for instance, our indexes range from 0 to 4. So if I went in here and put, say, a 6, and I go ahead and run this, you see that I have an index error, indicating that I am accessing an element with an index number that does not exist. Next, we will use the len function to return the number of items in the list. So let's go here and replace that with the len function. And in the parentheses, let's paste our reference variable to the list. Let's go ahead and run. And you see that I get 5, meaning 5 items for the list. Next, we will replace an item in a list. So assuming you wanted to replace 50 with a different number, we would need to access its element number. So let's come here, and now we'll say my list, square brackets, and we know that 50 is at element 4. So let's go ahead and type a 4, and then we'll say equals, and we can replace it with a different number. So I'll go for 100. So let's go and print the list. And then when we run this, you should see that 50 is now being replaced with 100. So next we will perform slice operations on a list. So slicing will partition a list or split it into subsections by index number. So here I have a list of days, so you can create one quickly. And let's go ahead and perform our first slice. So let's go here and type result. And we'll say it's equal to, so let's refer to the list, days, and then square brackets. So inside of the square brackets, we make our slice. So let's say we want to get Monday to Wednesday. Monday is at element 1, so let's go here and type a 1, and then we type a colon. And Wednesday is at element 3. So let's go here and type a 4. So what this means is generate a slice starting from element 1, excluding 4. So we will get Monday to Wednesday. So let's go here and print out the results. Let's run this. And you will see our first slice. So let's alter the slice by deleting the 1. So when we do this, when you don't have any number before that colon, it means 0. So this is going to generate a slice from 0 to 3. So let's go here and run. And you see that we get a slice from 0 to 3. Let's alter the slice again by coming here and putting 2 as our starting index and deleting the end index. So this will generate a slice from 2 all the way to the end of the list. So let's go ahead and run this, and then you'll see our slice. Let's alter our slice again by getting rid of this number. So this will generate the entire list. So let's go here and run, and you see that we get a slice of the entire list. And we can use negative numbers for our slicing. So the last element in a list is at -1. This will be at -2. So let's come here and set our start index to -2. So what this will do is generate a slice starting from here up to but excluding index 0. So let's go and run this. And you see that we get -2, -1, and 0 is excluded. So next we will use the in operator to search a list. So here I have a list of names, so you can generate one quickly. And then let's go in here and write an input function and assign that to a name variable. So type name equals and then input, and let's generate our prompt. So we will just say enter a name. So whatever value is entered will be assigned to name. So now we will use the in operator to check if that name is in the list. So let's write a condition or an if statement. So we'll say if, and then name in, and then names, our list, and then type your colon. So if whatever you typed is in the list, then we can go ahead and print out some feedback. So we'll say print, and then we can just say match. And then let's write an else statement. So we'll say else, colon, and then if the name is not in the list, we can just say no match. So let's run our program. And then let's go put a name that's in the list. So I'll go for Jane. Hit enter. And you see we get a match. Let's run our program again. And let's put a name that's not in the list. So I'll put X. And you see that I get no match. So next we will go over list methods. So we'll go over the append method, which will add an item to the end of a list. So here I have a list of numbers, and let's say we want to add a number to the end of this list. We do that by going here, and I'll say numbers.append, parentheses, and then I'll put the value that I want to add to the end of the list. So I'll go for 40, and then let's print out the list. So we go here and run. You should see now I have 40 appended to the list. Next is the index method, which returns the first occurring item in a list. So let's come here and delete that. And let's say we want to look for 20. We can come here and just say print, and then numbers.index, parentheses. So inside of the index functions parentheses, you put the value that you're looking for in the list, and its index will be returned if it exists. So let's go put a 20 in there. So we know that 20 is at element 1. So when we go ahead and run this, you should see I get a 1. Now if you go put a value in the list that's not there, then you're going to end up with an error. So if I go put, say, 200, so we know that 200 is not in the list. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. You see that I end up with a value error. So next is the insert method. So this inserts an item to a specific element in a list. So let's go here and then type numbers.insert and parentheses. So let's say I want to put a number here at 20's element. So we know that 20 is at element 1. So let's go here and type a 1 and then type a comma, and let's specify the value that we want to place there. So I'll go for 500. So let's go here and print out the list. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that 500 has been placed at element 1, and all the other items in the list have shifted to a new element. So 20 has now been shifted to the next element, and 30 has been shifted to a new element. Next, I'll show you the remove method. So this removes the first occurring item in a list. So let's come here and we'll replace this insert method with remove. So let's say I want to remove 30. Let's go here and type that. And then let's go ahead and run this. And you should see that 30 has been removed from the list. So next I'll show you the reverse method. So this inverts your list. So let's come here and replace remove with reverse. And then when we go ahead and run this, you should see that the list items have been reversed. And the next method is the sort method. So this will sort your list in ascending order. So we're going to come here and just change this list so that the numbers are not sorted. So I have 100, I got a 20 there, and I'll make this negative 30. And then let's come here and replace reverse with the sort function. So now we're going to go ahead and run this. You should see that the list items are now sorted in ascending order. So next we will combine lists with the plus operator. So here I got two lists of numbers, so you can create these quickly. And then let's come here and create a variable called combo, and then we'll say it's equal to A plus B. So this will combine lists A and B and assign that to this variable. So I'm going to come here and print out the combo variable and run. We should now see that both lists have been merged as one. Now you can also combine lists using the augmented assignment operator. So let's come here, and then we can say A plus equals B. And then we go here and print out A and run this. You see that we have a combined list. So next I'll show you the del statement. Now this removes an item from a list by index. So if you recall, we had the remove function, and that removed an item from a list by an actual value. But this does this by index. So here I have a list of new numbers, and let's say we want to remove 50 from this list. So 50 is at element 4. So we can come here and type del, and then numbers, just the name of the variable referencing the list, and then square brackets, and then we can put a 4 there. Now let's go ahead and print the list, and then when we run this, you should see that 50 is no longer in the list. Next, I'll show you the min and max functions. So the min function will return the smallest number in a list, and the max function returns the largest number in the list. So let's come here and delete those, and then let's type our print function. And then in there, let's type the min function. So inside of the parentheses of min, let's copy our numbers variable and paste that there. And then let's go to the next line and also do the same, but with the max function. So you can copy this line here and paste, and then replace min with max. So when we go ahead and run this, you should see we get 10, which is the smallest number in the list, and 50, which is the largest. So next I'll show you how to make an independent copy of a list. So let's come here, delete those, and create an empty list. So we'll call it numbers underscore copy. So next we'll create a for loop. So the for loop will iterate through the numbers list, and for each iteration it will append each number to the empty list. So let's go here and write our for loop, and let's make the target variable number. Let's get our numbers list and copy and paste that there and type your colon. And then let's get our numbers copy list and paste that there. And then let's call the append method. So inside of the parentheses, let's paste number. And now let's go outside of the loop. So you can hit the backspace key and let's print out the numbers copy. So now we're going to go ahead and run this. You should now see we have an independent copy. Our next topic is tuples. A tuple is a container that stores multiple values. A tuple is a data structure. Tuples are immutable, which means that after they are created, you can't add or remove items from them. You can slice tuples, iterate tuples. Tuples support indexing, and tuples do not support modification methods like append, insert, reverse, sort, and remove. Some tuple methods are count, index, min, max, and sum. For our coding activities, we will create a tuple, iterate a tuple, access tuple elements, and count tuple items. In this coding activity, we will create a tuple. So let's go here and create a variable named days, and then type equals parentheses. So let's go in here and put some strings in there. So I'll go for Sunday and then Monday. So when you're through, what I have highlighted here is a tuple. So let's print the tuple. Let's go ahead and run. And here we have our tuple. Next, we will iterate a tuple with a for loop. So let's go here, delete that, and create our for loop. So say for, and let's have a target variable of day. Type space, and then in space, and the name of our tuple, days. Type a colon, hit enter, and then let's use our print function to print out the day target variable. Now run it, and you see that the loop iterates the tuple and displays the items in them. Next, we will access the elements in a tuple. So let's go here, get rid of that, and then let's type our print function. Let's get days, copy that and paste that there, type your square brackets. So indexing a tuple is similar or identical to indexing a list. So if we want to get the first element in a tuple, we put an index of 0. Let's go ahead and run this. And you see that that gives me Sunday. And you can come here, put a 6, go ahead and run that, and that gives you Saturday. Now, let's try something that is not an index for that tuple. So here I've typed the 7. Go ahead and hit run. And of course, you see you get an index error. Next, we'll use the len function to return the number of items in the a tuple. So let's go here in our print function and delete that. And then let's type the len function. So in there, type days. And then let's go ahead and run it. And you see that it gives us 7 items from that count. Our next topic is dictionaries. A dictionary is a container for key value pairs. A key identifies a value, and a key must be unique and immutable. A value can be of any type, and a dictionary is a data structure. Dictionaries are immutable, and dictionary elements are unordered. Some dictionary methods are clear, get, items, keys, pop item, and values. For our coding activities, we will create a dictionary, access dictionary values, search a dictionary, delete dictionary elements, count dictionary elements, create an empty dictionary, iterate a dictionary, and work with dictionary methods. In this coding activity, we will create a dictionary. So let's go here and create a variable named groceries. And then let's say equals and curly braces. So inside of the curly braces, we'll place our key value pairs. So I'm going to use strings for the keys. So let's go here and start with a key of apple. And then after that, let's type a colon and then assign it a value of $2.99. So apple is a key and $2.99 is a value. So let's go put some more key value pairs. So we type a comma, and now I'll do a key of banana. And then let's come here, type a colon, and give that a price. Do a key of milk, give that a price. And I'll do one more key of eggs, and then give that a price. So what I have highlighted here is the dictionary. So let's print it out. Let's copy groceries, and paste it there, and run. And you see our dictionary. Next, we will access a dictionary value using its key. So let's come here and type square brackets, and let's get the banana key. So let's copy that, come here, and paste. So this will display the value of the banana key. So let's go ahead and run, and you'll see that we get $1.99. We can come here and then replace this with the apple key. Go ahead and run that, and you'll see we get $2.99. So if you go and put a key that does not exist, so I just typed an X after apple, and go ahead and run that, you see that you get a key error. Next, we'll use the in operator to determine if a key is in a dictionary. And after that, we'll use the not in operator to determine otherwise. So let's come here and then create a variable named key. And then we'll say it's equal to the input function. And let's have the prompt read enter a key. And then after that, we'll write an if statement to check if that key is in the dictionary. So we'll say if key in, let's copy the groceries dictionary and paste, type a colon. So if that condition is true, we can just print a message saying that the key is in the dictionary. So let's run this. And then let's type a key of milk. And sure enough, you see that we get the message that the milk key is in the dictionary. So now let's use the not in operator. So you can copy this line or this statement. Let's go to the next line. And then let's change this to if key not space in. And here we can just say the key is not in the dictionary. So let's run this. And then let's put a key that's not in the dictionary. So I'll just go for X, hit enter, and you see I get the message stating that the key is not in the dictionary. Next, we will delete a dictionary element using the del statement. So we can get rid of these. And let's say we want to delete the eggs key. So we'll come here and type del. And then let's get the groceries variable, copy, and paste that. And then type your square brackets, quotes, and then put the key of eggs. So after that, let's print the groceries dictionary. And then let's run this. And you see that the eggs key and its value have been removed from the dictionary. Now, if you attempt to remove a key that does not exist, this is what happens. So I just typed an X after eggs. I'll go ahead and run this. And you see that we get a key error. Next, we'll use the len function to count the number of items in our dictionary. So we can come here and get rid of that. And let's go in our print function. You can cut out groceries and then type the len function with the parentheses. And then in the parentheses, you can paste groceries. So let's come here and run this. And you see that I get a count of 4 elements from that dictionary. So next we will create an empty dictionary. So let's come here and delete everything after the equals. And then let's type our curly braces. So that right there is an empty dictionary. So we can now create keys and then assign values to those keys. So let's come here and copy the groceries dictionary, paste it, and then type square brackets, and then type our quotes. So inside of the quotes, type the name of your key. So I'm going for T. And then let's assign it a value. So I'll go for 199. And then let's go create 2 more key value pairs. So you can copy that line, paste, give this a different key name. I'll leave the price the same. Let's paste again and give that a different key name. Now let's go print the dictionary. And when we run that, we will see our key value pairs. Next, we will iterate the dictionary with a for loop. So let's come here and delete the print function and then type for, and let's type key for our target variable and then in, and let's get our groceries dictionary and copy that, paste that there, type a colon, hit enter, and then let's print out key. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that the keys are printed out. So if you want to get the values, we can do something like this. So we can type a comma after key. And then we know that key will be assigned the key names. So we can come here and access the value of those keys in the loop. So let's come here and copy groceries. And right after that, comma, paste groceries, and then type your square brackets. And then in the square brackets, type key. Now, let's run this again. And you'll see that we have the values next to the keys. So next we will use the dictionary methods. We'll start with the get method, which returns a value by its key. And if that key is not in the dictionary, no exception will be thrown. So let's come here and get rid of that. And then we can just say print, parentheses, and right away we can call the get method. So let's come here, copy groceries and paste, and then we'll say .get, parentheses, and in there let's put in a key. So I'll go for T. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that we have the value 199. So if I go here and say get TX and run that, you see that I get a value of none. So no exception will be thrown if you use the get method to retrieve a key that does not exist. Next, we have the keys method, which will return all keys in the dictionary as a tuple. So let's come here and replace get with keys and parentheses. So that's keys, plural. Now let's go ahead and run this. And you see that all the dictionary keys are placed in this tuple. Next, we have the values method, which will return the values of the dictionary as a tuple. So let's come here and replace keys with values. And then let's run it. And you see all the dictionary values are placed in this tuple. Next, we have the items method, which will return a tuple of the key value pairs in the dictionary. So let's come here and replace values with items. So let's run this. And you see the key value pairs of the dictionary placed in this tuple. So we could use this in a for loop like this. So I'm going to delete that. And then let's create a for loop. And then let's have two target variables. So I'll type K for the key, type a comma, and then V for the value. And then type space and then in. Let's get our groceries dictionary and copy that. And paste. And then after that, let's type a dot and then items. And then type your parentheses. And after that, let's type a colon, hit enter, and then let's print out K and V. So we'll say K, comma V. So we're going to go ahead and run this. You see that this conveniently prints out our key and value pairs from that dictionary. So next is the pop method, which will remove a key value pair from a dictionary and return the value of that key that was removed. So let's come here and delete that. Let's create a variable named V and then assign it groceries.pop, parentheses. So in the pop method, we'll pass two arguments. So the first will be the key that we want to remove. So let's go here and go for T. And then let's type a comma. And the second argument will be a message that appears if that key is not found. So let's come here and just say key not found. So let's go here and type our print function. And let's have a message that says removed. And then let's go ahead and combine that with the V variable. So once pop removes the key value pair, the value that was attached to that key will be assigned here, and that should be what we see here. And then after that, we can print our dictionary. So let's go ahead and run this. And you see that value 199 shows up there. And our dictionary shows that the T key and its value are no longer there. So if we go here and change this to TX, and go ahead and rerun that, we should now see the key not found message. And we have the clear method, which will remove all elements from the dictionary. So let's come here and delete that. And then we'll say groceries dot clear, parentheses. And let's go ahead and run this. And you should see that the dictionary is now empty. Our final topic is exceptions. An exception is an error that occurs in your program, and they are handled with the try except statement. Types of exceptions in Python are zero division error, value error, type error, file not found error, and so on. For our coding activities, we will handle a zero division error. We'll handle multiple exceptions, and handle any exception. In this coding activity, we will handle a zero division error. So this error occurs when you attempt to divide a number by 0. So we will write a program that prompts the user for 2 numbers and then divide those numbers. So let's come here and create a variable. And then let's assign it the int function. Let's go in the parentheses of int and type the input function. Let's go in the parentheses of input and enter our prompt, and let's have it read enter a number. Let's select this line, copy it, hit enter, and then paste. And let's change this to B, and let's have this read enter another number. So let's hit enter, and now we'll write our try except statement. So type try and then a colon. Hit enter, so we get in the try body. Now in the try suite or try body, we will print out A divided by B. So let's go here and then type A divided by B. Hit enter and then hit the backspace key. Now let's type our except clause. So right after except, you specify the type of error that you wish to handle. So we're handling a zero division error. So type that and then type a colon. So if the zero division error occurs, we will display a message. So hit enter and then let's print the message cannot divide by 0. Let's hit enter and hit the backspace key, and then let's type else and a colon, hit enter, and then let's print the message OK. So if no error occurs, then we will get the OK message displayed. So let's hit enter, and let's hit the backspace key again, and then let's print the message goodbye to indicate that our program has ended. So let's run the program, and then let's enter a number. So I'll go for 5, and then let's enter a second number. I'll go for 2. Hit enter, and you see that the try suite divides 5 by 2, and then we get the OK message displayed, and then we get our goodbye message. Now let's run the program again, and this time I'll enter a 6, hit enter, and then enter a 0 and hit enter. So now you'll see the cannot divide by 0 message, indicating that the zero division error occurred and it was handled. Next, we'll handle multiple exceptions. So let's select these lines and cut them. And let's go in the try body and paste. Let's tab this line so it's aligned. Now we're going to handle a second exception called value error. So this occurs if the int function fails to convert a value into an integer. So this can happen if you enter a letter instead of a number. So let's go here and hit the backspace key, and then let's type our except clause. After except, type value error. Type your colon, hit enter, and let's print the message, please enter numbers only. So let's run our program, and then I'll just enter some letters and then hit enter, and you see that the value error was handled because we have this message displayed. And then we can run our program again. I'll enter 5 and enter a 0 and hit enter, and you'll see that the zero division error was also handled. Next, I'll show you how to handle any exception. So let's come here and replace B with a C. So this will cause a name error because we are using a variable that was never defined. So let's come here and hit enter and hit the backspace key and then type accept and then type a colon. So you'll notice that the name error was not typed after the except clause because the idea is you want to handle any exception. So let's hit enter and then let's print a message and let's just have it say error. Now let's run our program and then let's enter a number and enter another. And you see that we get our error message. So next I'll be going over the projects. For project 1, we'll create a prime number checker program using conditions, loops, functions, and exception handling. So here's a demonstration of the program. You start by typing a number and then hit enter. And it'll tell you if the number is a prime number or not. So in this case, 5 is a prime number. You'll also be prompted to enter Y to continue using the program or anything else to stop using the program. So if you type a Y and then hit enter, you'll be prompted to enter another number that will be checked if it's prime or not. So if I enter a non-prime number and hit enter, you'll see that it says 4 is not a prime number. So I type Y again, and this will keep going until you type something else. So if you type Y to use the program and you go and type letters, for instance, and hit enter, you get an error. So if you keep typing letters, you keep getting this error message. And this won't go away until you enter a number. And then when you're done using the program, you can type anything that's not a Y and hit enter, and that will terminate the program. So first we will define a function that checks if a number passed to it is a prime number or not. So if the number is a prime number, a Boolean value of true will be returned. And if the number is not a prime number, it will return a false Boolean value. So let's define the function. So type def and name it is underscore prime. Type your parentheses, type a colon. Let's go in the parentheses and create a parameter variable named number. So this will hold the number that you pass into the function so it can be checked whether it's prime or not. So any number that is less than or equal to 1 is not a prime number. So we will write a condition that checks for that and then return false. So let's come here and then we'll say if number is less than or equal to 1, type your colon, hit enter, and then return false. Next, we'll write a for loop that checks if the number is divisible by any number other than itself or 1. So let's go here, and then we'll say for, and let's name the target variable I, and then in range, type your parentheses, and in the parentheses, let's have the loop start at 2. Type a comma, and let's have it end at number. Type your colon, and then let's go inside of the body of the loop, and we'll write a condition to check if number is divisible by I to yield a remainder of 0. So let's come here and type if number, and then percentage I equals 0, and then type a colon. So if this condition is true, then it means that number is not a prime number. So on that note, we'll return false. So if this first condition is false, and after all the iterations in the loop, this condition remains false, then the only other possibility is that number is a prime number. So let's come here and hit the backspace key. Make sure that you're outside of the for loop, and then type return true. So that takes care of defining the isPrime function. Next, we'll define a function that displays a message when the program ends. So let's come here and hit enter. And make sure that you've hit the backspace key and you're aligned with this first function. And then let's define that function. So type def, and let's name it end_program. Type your parentheses and a colon, hit enter, and let's print the message goodbye. And that takes care of defining the end program function. Next, we'll define a function that will serve as the main program. So it will contain a while loop that serves as the program loop that keeps the program running. And it will also allow the user to enter a number to be checked if it's prime or not, as well as handle an exception. So let's come here and define the function. So hit the backspace key and type def, and let's name it start_program. Type your parentheses and a colon. Let's go inside of the function and create a variable. So let's call it try_again. And then let's assign it a value of y. So this value is what's going to be used to keep the loop running. Next, let's create the while loop. So let's come here and then type while. And we're going to say try again, 2 equals, and then y, and then type your colon. So provided try again is equal to y, the loop is going to keep running. So within the loop, we'll write a try except statement that will handle an exception if the user enters a letter when checking for a prime number. So let's come here and then type try, colon, and then you can hit the backspace key and then type except, and then colon, and after except just type a print function, and you can just have it read an error occurred. Next, we'll go in the try block and collect a number. So let's come here, hit enter, and then type number for a variable, and then we'll say it's equal to int, parentheses, and in the int function, type the input function, and then provide a prompt of enter a number. Next, we'll call the isPrime function and assign the result to a variable. So let's come here, and now let's create a variable named result, and then we'll assign it is_prime, parentheses. So let's copy number, and then let's paste it in the isPrime function's parentheses. So recall that the isPrime function will return either true or false. So let's come here and we'll write a condition to check result. So we'll say if result. So it's just the same as saying if true or false. So let's type a colon, and then after that let's print an f string. So type your print function and your f string, and then let's put a placeholder for number, and then we'll say is a prime number, and then let's hit enter in the backspace key, and let's type an else statement. So type else and a colon, and then you can select this line and copy it. Let's go to the next line and paste, and then just say is not a prime number. So next we'll prompt the user if they want to enter another number. So let's come here after the else block and hit the backspace key, and we'll use that try again. So type try again, and then we'll say it's equal to the input function. So I already have my prompt copied, so I'm just going to paste that in there. So you can have it read this, just something descriptive, and then that takes care of that. Next, we will call the end program function. So let's come here and hit enter, and hit the backspace key, and just make sure that you're outside of the while loop. So you can hit the backspace key again and just make sure that you're flushed with this while statement. So let's come here and type the end program function, and that will terminate the program. And finally, we will call the start program function. So you can come here and select your start program function and copy it, and then come here and hit enter, hit the backspace key, and then paste. And now we can run our program. So let's run it. And then you'll be prompted to enter a number. So same as the demonstration, you can just enter some numbers. Type Y to continue, enter another number. It'll tell you if it's prime or not. Type Y to continue using the program. And then when you start entering letters, you get your error message until you enter a number. And then when you're done using the program, you can type anything that's not a Y, and then hit enter, and that terminates it. For project 2, we'll create a program that averages list values, and it'll be done using conditions, loops, functions, variable scope, lists, and exception handling. So here's a demonstration of the program. So you'll be prompted to enter a score or -1 to quit. So I'll start with 30 and hit enter, and you'll be prompted to enter another number. So this keeps going until you enter a negative number to quit. So if I go here and type letters in the middle of this, you see that I get an error. So if I keep typing letters, I'll keep getting that error. But you can resume entering numbers. And then once you're done, you can enter -1 and hit enter. And then this will show the numbers that you entered in a list and the average of those numbers in the list. And the program terminates. Okay, first we will create an empty list that will store the numbers input by the user. So let's create a variable named number_list, and then assign it square brackets. Next, we will define a function that will accept the number input by the user and append that number to the list. So let's come here and define a function. Let's name it add_number. Type your parentheses and a colon. Let's go in the parentheses and then create a parameter variable named number. Let's go in the body of the function and let's refer to this number list. So you can copy it. So we're going to treat it as a global variable. So go ahead and type the keyword global and then number list. Let's go to the next line and then let's go append the number parameter to the list. So you'll say number list dot append parentheses, and then you can copy number and paste that there. Next, we will define a function that displays a message when the program ends. So let's come here, hit your backspace key, and let's name the function end_program. Type your parentheses and a colon. Let's go in the body of the function and print goodbye. Next, we'll define a function that accumulates all the numbers in the list and returns their average. So let's come here and then let's define a function named calculateAverage. Type your parentheses and a colon. So we're going to have this calculateAverage function accept a list. So let's go here and create a parameter named numberList. And let's go in the body of the function and then let's create a variable named total and assign it a value of 0.0. So the total variable is going to be an accumulator variable. So this is going to be used to accumulate the numbers in the list. So let's go to the next line, and then let's create a for loop that will iterate the list. And for every iteration, it will accumulate the list values to this total variable. So let's go here and type for target variable I in, and then number list. Type your colon. Let's go in the body of the for loop, and we will accumulate I to total. So type total plus equals I. Let's go to the next line and hit the backspace key so that you're outside of the loop. So next we will return the average. So let's come here and type return, and then we'll say total divided by, and then let's type the len function, and inside of the len function, let's copy number list and paste that there. Next, we'll define a function that will serve as the main program. It'll contain a while loop that will serve as the program loop. It'll contain a try except statement that will handle input errors. It will display the list items or the numbers and the average of those numbers. So let's define the function and name it start_program. Next, we'll refer to the global number list variable and create a variable that will control our while loop. So let's come here in the body of the function and then type global, and let's refer to the number list. Let's go to the next line and create a variable named number, and let's assign that a 0. Next, we'll create our while loop. So let's go here and type while number greater than or equal to 0, and then type a colon. Next, we'll create the try except statement. So let's go in the while loop and type try colon. Go to the next line, hit the backspace key, type except colon, hit enter, and print out an error message. So we'll say an error occurred. Next, we'll go to the try block and collect input and convert that input into a floating point number. So let's go here and type number equals, and type the float function. Inside of the float function's parentheses, type the input function, and then you can create this prompt that reads enter a score or -1 to quit. Now, if the user enters a negative number, we want to break out of the loop. So let's go here and write an if statement. So we'll say if number is less than 0, type your colon, hit enter, and then type break. Next, we'll call the add number function, which will append the number to the list. So let's come here after break, hit enter, and make sure that you're flush with this if statement. We want to be outside of this if statement. And then type add underscore number, parentheses. Let's copy your number variable, and then paste that in the add number function's parentheses. Next, we'll write an if statement to check that there are items in the list before we calculate the average. So let's come here and hit your backspace key until you're aligned with this while statement. And then let's type if, type the len function. Let's get the number list, and let's put that in the len function. And then come here and type greater than 1 and type a colon. So the reason why we're checking for this is so that when we perform the average calculation, we're not going to end up with a zero division error. Next, we'll call the calculate average function and assign the result to a variable. So let's go inside of the if statement and then create a variable named average. And then let's assign it the calculate average function. Type your parentheses. So let's get the number list. copy that and pass that to the average function. Next, we'll display the list values and their average. So let's come here and type our print function. And then let's create an F string. Let's have it read scores. And then let's create a placeholder for the number list. You can select the print function, copy it, go to the next line and paste, change this to average, and change this to average as well. Next, we'll call the end program function. So let's hit enter and hit the backspace key so that you're outside of the if statement, and then type end underscore program parentheses. And finally, we'll call the start program function. So let's come here, hit enter a few times, hit the backspace key, and then type start underscore program parentheses. Now let's run our program. And you'll be prompted to enter a score -1 to quit. So let's enter a first number. Let's enter a second, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth. So you can start entering letters, and that should catch that as an error. And you can resume entering numbers. So these numbers are going to be appended to the list. So you can enter -1 to quit, and you see that the numbers that were entered are shown in the list, and the average is calculated, and the program ends. So congratulations to everyone for completing the course. Please look out for more.